Okay, so like definitely not the reimbursement right now as for like even right now as like the subordinates of like the sheriff chief straight away like kind of like assuming that uh basically the restaurant owner Benny like took his own life. Like I'm also think the sheriff chief that him alone I'm considering right now, even though he'll be like feeling something off about like the death of Daniel. It's definitely my consideration. I'm considering maybe him getting like the sheriff chief alone getting the feeling that it's not that basically Benny didn't take his own life, that someone had taken his life. So like I'm considering him to like my personal impression is for like a remote person there, like how exactly he might figure it out. Like the police, I mean like the sheriff chief, as like how exactly he might figure it out. Ambassador Parang maybe to be through a scenario where like Ambassador Parang since like the wound is on like the right side of Benny's pocket, Ambassador Parang maybe for like the sheriff chief will eventually figure out that basically uh, that Benny was like a left hand. So like precisely due to like Benny being a left hand and like the wound being on the right side of Benny's the wound that resulted in like Benny's left being like on the right side of like Benny's forehead. I'm preferring that would be like I'm preferring like the whole how as to like how exactly I'm preferring eventually for like the sheriff chief to like figure out that like Benny didn't take the same life but like someone took the life of Benny. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm going to the perfect and I'm putting the impression right now. So like definitely my particular impression right now for like the sheriff chief, he's kind of like agreeing to like the his like subordinates question as to that Benny having taken his own life. Like I'm referring it would totally have to do with like basically the sheriff chief like totally wanting to like confirm that and his like his substitution and his strong substitution and feeling that basically because like I'm going to think like definitely, especially because that of like Benny being like the friend of like the sheriff chief, like he might also probably the sheriff chief might not only known Benny far too well to the point that the sheriff chief would be even right now see witnessing with Benny's death. Like I'm considering, uh, definitely the sheriff chief would be like definitely almost certain that basically Benny is like from how he knew Benny, like we would be like almost absolutely certain that Benny is definitely not the kind of person that will like even think about taking his own life. It's definitely my personal recommendation. But yet, like I'm suffering. So like so especially because of the like the church chief would be like definitely right now just strongly feeling that someone might have taken Benny's life. Yet like I'm in the church chief might definitely want to like confirm that like and not want to like jump into conclusions and might want to confirm that first. And it might be precisely because of that, like the church chief might have decided to like possibly temporarily lie to his like subordinate about like uh, Benny most likely having taken his own life and agreeing to their questions. It's definitely my very impression. Yes, so that definitely my very impression right now as for like right now as like Don is like totally being nice to like Will's brother, like yet like Will's brother totally disliking it. Lonnie, I'm it might definitely have to do with like what he did back when he was living, Lonnie was living with Will and Will's brother and his wife. This is definitely my personal impression. Back then, like back then, my personal impression that like he might not only like uh, Will's brother, yet like he might have showed that absolute extreme indifference towards like Will. It's definitely my personal impression. Like he might not only treated Will alone differently, extremely differently, and that might have caused a lot of fight within like families. Definitely my personal impression. So Will's brother might have only started to like seriously dislike Lonnie precisely because of that. And also like there might have been also other reasons which those different things might have been definitely even while Lonnie might have been married to like Will's mother, like even then Lonnie might have had like other affairs. So like I was different this might have also created clashes and fights in like the family and might have caused like Vince's brother specifically to like dislike Lonnie even more. So definitely my personal recommendation. But like for the thing, like but my personal recommendation was that definitely what might have actually pushed Vince's mother to get divorce from like Lonnie might have been precisely like him totally treating Will totally extremely indifferently and that might have eventually totally resulted in like a major fight happening in like the family in this like unprecedented like so definitely my good impression but like it might have definitely been like a major fight that eventually happened within like Lonnie's family, which connecting to essentially Lonnie treating Bill in the current way might have definitely what might have exactly resulted in Bill's mother like basically getting a divorce from Lonnie. That's definitely my good impression. And but maybe like even back then like Bill's mother like even by she might have probably knew about like Lonnie's like affairs like even then she might have only might have been willing to like forgive Lonnie and she might have actually even forgive Lonnie even then to the limit of it might have been precisely when Lonnie's like treating of like Bill indifferently might have eventually gotten to the extreme at that point might have been when like uh, like uh, Bill's mother might have totally might have had it, and basically she might have straight away like that huge fight might have happened within the family, and this mother might have gotten divorced from Lonnie and moved away, and might have moved away to straight away might have moved away to a different town. Because like that might be how much like Bill's mother as well as like Bill's brother might have been like absolutely fed up with Lonnie to like stay as far away as possible, as it's like possible for them to be able to like stay away from Lonnie. It might be with that intent that like they might have only moved to like the town of Hawkins. It's definitely my possible way and what so like my particular intentions that like back when like Lonnie was like living as like a family with like with mother and with brother Jonathan. Like at that point, I'm also thinking like Lonnie might have always been like so extremely proud of like Jonathan and might have always proudly praised Jonathan all the time while at the same time comparing totally acting indifferently towards like towards Will and comparing Will with like Jonathan and that way like acting extremely indifferently towards towards Will and then bring eventually like comparing Jonathan growing up to the point where like he was old enough to like realize that like what Lonnie was doing was extremely wrong and the whole comparison and indifference was extremely wrong and that way like I'm also saying like Jonathan might have definitely loves like since like Jonathan definitely loves Ring so much like he might have slowly realized and that extreme dislike might have formed within Jonathan towards Lonnie's definitely one of the so even since then I'm remembering every time uh, like uh, uh, Lonnie would like praise Jonathan like every time from that point on, once like Jonathan realized this, like I'm different from that point on, every time Lonnie would praise Jonathan, like it would only it might have only started to like trigger Jonathan more and more. Certainly, my person theory impression. This might be the precise reason for like right now with even right now like the present Lonnie's like once again proudly hugging Jonathan like basically even then Jonathan basically showing that extreme it's like towards like Lonnie would be precisely because of this. So like the film at the end position right now with like solely due to like Lucas the girl 11 being forced to like display her powers in front of like Mike Lucas and Dustin like I'm considering right now like the scenario that I'm considering is basically Dustin especially Dustin who's and those considering Dustin who usually gets quickly scared the most when compared to like Lucas and Mike I'm considering Dustin from this point on until like witnessing like those and realizing she doesn't have like all these superpowers I'm considering like Dustin to like lose all of his fear towards all of his fear and basically him I'm considering Dustin totally being obsessed with like 11 and the 11's powers like all these mysterious powers that 11 have that I'm considering Dustin to be extremely fine like 11 so extremely cool it's like the scenario that I'm considering and I'm considering Dustin to be like so extremely curious and curiously often nagging 11 with wanting to like see more powers of 11 so which under the 11 most likely won't be agreeing to is that definitely in the present is definitely my position so I'm considering Dustin from this point on being like totally and absolutely obsessed and fond of 11 and because of 11 superpowers is definitely my position while I'm considering for Lucas on the other hand I'm considering would be after witnessing from the moment of witnessing 11's superpowers and considering Lucas could be totally scared and intimidated by 11 it's like the scenario that I'm considering as for Mike I'm considering Mike got here remaining in the very same mindset and being even more curious, not particularly about like the powers of 11, but like as to like what's going on and about like Mike would be totally focused on wanting to like get the bottom of the situation as for like Will's disappearance and the connection of Will's disappearance with the superpowers and all that. It's like the so like this would be how like I was reporting like 11 displaying being forced to like display her superpowers and Mike Lucas as well as like Dustin like witnessing that like how it would be changing like their approach towards like 11 is like my secondary direction. Okay, so like definitely not the secondary direction right now like for like lonely for people like asking about like Hopper like the police chief to like Jonathan and the different so Hopper might be like the current police chief that basically carrying out like the investigation and everything of like Wilson is definitely my different area. So like I'm referring as for like Lonnie totally being curious about Hopper like I'm just referring it might totally have to do with like definitely my personal impressions that like before Lonnie married like Will's mother, like I'm considering before that like I was considering in like the past, like in the distant past, like Hopper and Will's mother might have been in like a relationship and like it might have been after like their problems that I'm considering. And it might have been something that might have happened in like the past. Then it might have like the Hopper and like Will's mother might have then broke up and many years might have even passed and it might have been all after that like that I was referring Lonnie might have even married Will's mother. Definitely my personal impression. So like still then my personal impression that like so like my personal impression that it might have been after like Lonnie married like Will's mother that and he might have even either found out about like like Will's mother about like Hopper being like Will's mother's like ex-boyfriend and I'm considering either that or like I'm considering after marriage like I'm considering Will's mother itself might have like totally revealed about like Hopper being like her ex-boyfriend and all that. But like I'm considering Lonnie might have turned that into like a huge deal and might have since when might have made like all sorts of quarrels with like Borwell's mother by always mentioning like the name of Hopper. It's definitely my consideration. There might have been like far too many fights and quarrels happening and might have happened in like Lonnie's family back then, like with like Will's mother back then, or the mention of like Hopper's name was definitely my theory and prediction. So like definitely when the theory and predictions that basically Hopper might have totally moved on after breaking up with like Will's mother like in like the path like Hopper might have totally moved on exactly like Will's mother as well and there was different Hopper might have totally gotten married and there was different eventually they had and but different maybe like precisely when Hopper got married even then like Hopper might have definitely been like the police chief of that precise Hawkins town, especially near the university. He might have married someone from like that precise Hawkins town as well. It was definitely my personal impression. But like I'm considering initially Sarah, after Sarah was born, like I'm considering as like Sarah grew up, like I'm considering Sarah seriously showing all that talent and flavor for science and the fact that like Sarah had like extremely high IQ above average superior IQ might have been far too evident for like both Hopper as well as his wife back then. It's definitely my personal so like I'm considering her Hopper's wife might have been of like the mindset that like that they needs to like move to like the city as soon as possible for like because like she might have totally felt it would be like the best for like that way for like Sarah's price future for like a price future for Sarah might have been what Hopper's wife might have felt. But like I'm different Hopper might have been of like the a different mindset and Hopper might have wanted Sarah to like actually live in the town of Hawkins. It's definitely my best friend. So like I'm just bring also like my secondary positions was that like since it's also now reveal that basically Hopper used to like in like the past used to work as like city police like I'm just bring used to work in like the city. I'm just bring like that might have happened due to like Hopper's wife like might have been like might have put that pressure on Hopper to like move to like the city to try to get a transfer to like the city uh, so for like Sarah's bright future. So like I'm wondering maybe it might be that might be how like I'm considering in the past like Hopper might have totally moved away with his like family to the city. It's definitely my best Emerson. Then I'm considering like Hopper might have. due to like eventually due to like some reason like I'm considering Hopper might have only got transferred back into like the round of Hawkins definitely was the reimbursement. So at that point, like Hopper might have wanted like his wife and Robert Sarah to like move along with him to like the round of Hawkins. But like I'm considering his wife might have thoroughly disagreed because of like her feeling that like the city would be best for like Sarah's like for like the bright future of Sarah. It's definitely my personal reason. That might be what like what wife might have felt. Back then it's definitely my personal impression. So like exactly because of this random differing maybe like even Sarah as well might have totally wanted to stay in electricity. Just like also back then it's also my perspective. So like I'm referring maybe there might have been like a quarrel in like the family and maybe I'm referring eventually finally Hopper might have decided to like move to like the town of Hawkins by himself. And since then like Hopper might have been like the chief sheriff of like the town of Hawkins since then it's definitely my impression. So like it might be then like my personal impression were like then basically Sarah might have totally grew up in like the city with like her mother while Hopper might have been like Hopper might have been all by himself in like the town of Hawkins as like working as like the chief sheriff in the film of impression. So eventually I'm also saying Sarah eventually might often even might once a while might even show up to like the town Hawkins to like meet Hopper. So like one time when Sarah might have showed up to like the town of Hawkins to like meet Hopper, it might be at that point that I'm preparing the last time about the thing like Dr. Planet might have done his like energy experiment and might have caused like another alien to like basically escape from like his lab energy laboratory. And that alien might have totally scared and straight away ran towards like Sarah while Sarah might have been all by herself uh, and I'm remembering it might be especially during that time that I'm remembering Sarah might have just showed up to like the town of Hawkins to like visit Hopper. And so like Sarah might have been staying in like the town of Hawkins for like this 1 or 2 days. And during the number of Sarah might have just taken a walk in like the middle of the night. And I'm remembering it might be during then that exactly this alien that might have escaped part of like as part of like branch like experiment in like the past might have escaped from like the laboratory and might have only ran into Sarah and that alien might have totally taken the life of Sarah. It's definitely my perception. But like in my perception, there is definitely that like in Will's case, like and like in like the case of like the scientist that basically the alien in like the present has turned them into like disappearing. Those two will be definitely alive. It's definitely my perception. So like I'm perceiving that alien that escaped in the past might have been a totally different alien. So like that alien might have straight away might have acted as well differently, and that alien might have straight away took Sarah's life. Might have been what might have happened that day. It's definitely not different. So like I'm different. Because of this like the wife of Hopper basically might have gotten extremely embraced with like Hopper and might have put all the blame into like Hopper for like Hopper's decision to like basically move to like the town of Hawkins by himself, and that being like the reason for like Sarah like showing up to like meet Hopper and eventually upsetting in like Sarah's death and all that. So like I'm bring along such lines along such lines like Hopper might have totally put that extreme blame onto like Hopper and Hopper might have felt that absolute extreme guilt, and then the brings his wife might have totally gotten divorced from Hopper at that point. It's definitely my personal impression. So like I'm also trying right now my putting the impression that eventually with like this whole current Will's disappearance situation and like all this like investigation eventually I'm totally bring Hopper through like eventually at some point in like the distant future as like Hopper will be like investigating more and more, getting more and more deep into like the investigation. Eventually I'm totally bring Hopper to totally discover and uncover that truth that basically Sarah that was caused by like was actually caused due to the reason behind Sarah's death is actually not just an alien, but like was actually due to like the Dr. Planet and his like experiments conducted in that energy laboratory and causing the aliens to basically take Sarah's life and all that. And so eventually Hopper totally Hopper who even to the present day might have totally might have only felt that like Sarah's death might have been some death by like some animal in like the wild or something. Hopper at that point eventually like just the point like which are as part of it, eventually next investigation would be uncovering that proof that like Dr. Brown is like the culprit behind Sarah's death. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm bring. And I'm bring as like Hopper would be like and I'm bring Hopper putting in all that effort and like spending sleepless nights trying to like basically uh, to basically solve this and basically that way get Will back, especially because like all that memories that would be like taking in more and more as like Hopper would be diving more and more deep into his like investigation with like amplifying with like each disappearance that would be happening. This definitely probably thing to happen. And I'm definitely predicting for like Mike's sister like as well who definitely disappear eventually. And so like with all these disappearance happening, like the each disappearance and those different Hopper might have that that memory within Hopper of like the trauma of like having lost his daughter would be like getting triggered with like each disappearance, like the scenario that I'm considering. So like with that, like I'm considering Hopper spending even sleepless nights just to like find out like the truth behind like this missing and disappearance. So like definitely my first impression that it could be only like the very expensive that finally towards the very end of like Hopper's investigation would be when like Hopper would be like finally succeeding in like finding and saving Will. Definitely my first impression like and at that point definitely was preparing like the final scenario to be like a happy ending for Hopper where like Hopper would be like eventually like and I was preparing Hopper like seeing all that effort that Hopper would be like totally like putting in like each and every single day to find Will and like the other missing children that would be like going missing eventually. I'm preparing definitely definitely like even Jonathan as well as like Hopper's like ex-girlfriend like basically Bill's mother as well, like they would be like so feeling that absolute gratitude once like Hopper would be finding and saving Bill that bring eventually like the end scenario that brings definitely once like all the issues are solved and once like villain's alien would be brought down or captured, most likely brought down or taken the life of or like captured. Like at that point, think definitely for Hopper to be part of like the family to have a new family with like and be a father like and basically live with like Will and Jonathan and his like uh, and like their mother like and was bring like Hopper eventually living with them and like them being like family eventually. It is like the end scenario that I'm really bring and in the end version. So like definitely my secondary impression is that like 11 might have definitely escaped like the laboratory of Brennet like along with like the villainous alien like and also definitely it might be like definitely the villainous alien might have created all sorts of destruction in like the energy laboratory and like the villain might have escaped like the laboratory and also bring like 11 that this question might have caused like 11 to be able to like escape from like in-person like location like that laboratory and 11 might have escaped through that very same huge hole that like the alien villainous alien had basically created in that laboratory. It's definitely my personal impression and I'm going to bring 11 might have slowly made her way to that precise force where Will had basically Bill was basically running away from like the scare from like this like villains aliens definitely my good so like definitely right there like precisely while all that incident was happening about different precisely like 11 might have been like a secret witness to all that like to like Bill running away trying to escape like the villains alien and all that in that precise war. That's definitely my good so my personal impressions that like even in like I'm personally putting like 11 slowly like precisely with like Mike's approach towards like 11 alone like precisely working and 11 slowly revealing bit by bit after like details connecting to like Vince's disappearance like and I'm also putting like Mike and his friends like basically that way like the middle of the night like and then just like to be definitely most likely uh, every night like every night in like the middle of the night would be like beach night time. Each day during like the night time would be when like Mike and his friends would be like doing their secret investigation, trying to like find out, trying to find Will. It's definitely my personal remembrance. So like I'm considering this like them totally most likely meeting up at Castle Bios with like Mike bringing 11 with him and like them all like doing their whole discussions and meeting in like Castle Bios, and then from there like them totally searching in like doing that whole part of like search in like searching for like in like the middle of the night in all sorts of locations. So definitely my personal with them according to like the clues that precisely and about to bring like a bond of friendship being formed between like 11 and Mike, that 11 would be turning actually being willing to like help Mike basically say will definitely my positive impression. So like with that like I'm considering 11 slowly revealing more revealing the things it knows about like this villain alien and Will's disappearance to Mike, and that way like with that information like I'm considering Mike and 11 along Mike along with his friends and 11 like basically like doing the for investigative kind of like search for Will in like the in every night, especially my the so considering as they would be doing their, for example, considering with like each upcoming future disappearance of like a disappearance by this exact villain's alien that I'm referring to happen. Like I'm considering during each of the times I'm referring coincidentally Mike and his friends would be like along with like 11 would be like searching at like a location that would be like kind of not extremely far away from where this like alien villain of alien will be showing up, and the disappearance would be happening. It's definitely not the so like I'm considering at that point, it will be precisely 11 that will be first running off in a specific direction, precisely because of 11 having that specific special powers. Like I'm considering 11 will be able to like precisely sense the presence of that villain of alien whenever it's like kind of like at a like kind of at it's like a range of like being able to like detect is that for 11 to be able to detect is definitely my remember. So like I'm considering it will be always like 11 like running away ahead to like a specific direction but totally unexpectedly while 11 would be with like my kind of friend. That number difference to repeatedly happen with like each future disappearance that would be caused by the villain's alien, especially my personal rhythm. So like I'm considering that way, like in each of like the future disappearance scenario, like I'm considering there will be always like just people who would have like seen like the would be like the sheriff would be investigating each of like the future disappearance and considering them like exactly like right now like with like the old man basically giving the description about this like kid with like a bus haircut like basically being present during like on like the very day that basically Benny had died. Like basically I'm considering like this description of like this kid with like the bus haircut, like I'm considering this description to like repeat keeping on repeating as like the sheriff would be investigating each of like the future disappearance, like the presence of this like the constant repeated presence of like this kid with like the bus haircut will be like repeating, and I'm considering that way like the chief sheriff like proper like totally uh, seeing this kid with like the bus haircut as like the ultimate key in like him being able to like unlock the mystery behind all these disappearances. Definitely my personal emotion, and that way like and that way, I'm just reporting eventually like the future. I'm just reporting like from all these witnesses, like I'm just reporting the sheriff, like the Hopper, like eventually like being able to like draw caricatures of like a pictorial representation of like basically what this like kid with like the short with like the short bus haircut looks like, and basically I'm considering along with like the one poster of like Bill, I'm considering another one poster of like this size. Of 11 as well, being put up eventually all across like the town of Hawkins, is like eventual scenario that I'm delivering. And that way, like it's being like even more stealth, being like that much like stealth and like ensuring that absolutely no one finds out about like no one even sees 11 at all. Like when my guns at all at any time at all would be like eventually being that much of like an extremely high priority for Mike and his like friends with like the eventual scenario that I'm on the things and my Durian. Okay, so like definitely my Durian direction right now is that basically even while 11 itself is like basically extremely strict about not wanting grown up seeing her like I'm preferring still the fact that 11 like so casually like walk around in like Mike's home precisely as like my parents' friends were having picnic with Mike's parents and all that. I'm preferring like to do precisely due to like 11 definitely I'm preferring right now to for 11 to like definitely step out of like Mike's home by herself. It's definitely my preference precisely because of like it right now would be most likely being almost like it could be almost like 8 o'clock 8 p.m. Right now is supplemented very much and 11 might be able to like with its like special powers it would be like the precise villainous alien would be within its range the 11 might be able to like detect its presence within its like range. It's definitely like also remember. So like I'm remembering maybe like for 11 already so like my consideration is that like so maybe since like Dylan might have actually witnessed like Will running scare from while being chased after by the villain's agent in that forest. Like since like 11 might have been a witness, definitely been a witness to that. Like I'm wondering 11 might have seriously decided from that point on to basically to do everything in like 11 power or like 11 superpower to precisely ensure that villain alien is stopped and brought down. So definitely my preference. So like right now, since like I'm preferring to couldn't most likely because of like 11 being able to like detect the presence of that alien, that 11 might have okay, actually just uh just walked out of like walked out of Will's of like Mike's home and not even caring about like Mike's parents even seeing 11 precisely because like this would be like from the 11 point of view this would be something that 11 sees as like an even higher priority. Bringing down that villainous alien would be right now something that 11 sees as like an even more extremely higher priority of like a thing. It's definitely my personal impression. So like I said, like definitely the impression right now of like 11 like basically casually walking right beside like the dinner room. Like basically I'm considering definitely 11 would be like leaving like much home right now. It's definitely my best impression. So if of 11 would be a like sense that villainous alien within its range at like at some distance at some enough great enough distance. Definitely my best impression. So like 11 would be like sensing that person then from like that distance and Kidovan would be like slowly walking out of like my home. And about the Frank Kidovan would be only walking in like a path like a road that would be like kind of mostly dark and about Frank Kidovan would be always herself would be like walking through that path leading to that it's definitely my personal impression. So like I'm considering right and I'm considering Mike right now itself like making some sort of like an excuse to like basically get up from like the dinner table and I'm considering Mike to like straight away go to like the precise location in this area in his home where like he had seen 11 and I'm considering uh, him totally seeing like his front door open and basically that way Mike suddenly realizing 11 has like left Mike's home. So like I'm preparing Mike taking a quick look outside his like house and basically not seeing 11. So like I'm preparing right then like Mike's mother most likely calling Mike back to like dinner. And so like I'm preparing Mike giving signals with his like eyes or something. I'm preparing to telling his friends to that basically signaling them that basically the like facial expression that like 11 has disappeared has left like the home of Mike. So like at that point I was trying like Mike and his friends like basically quickly finishing their dinner uh, or like them making some excuses like I'm considering them probably quickly finishing their dinner and I'm considering Mike and telling uh, his mother that or like Mike's friends so like at that point, I was preparing my kind of from like see when they quickly discussing and basically my telling them that we need to get find and bring back 11 as soon as possible. And preparing to this totally being of like the mindset as if like good redundancy, like we shouldn't like search for like 11. So like I'm preparing eventually like but not well totally deciding to like agree with that find it deciding to like agree with Mike. So like I'm preparing them all deciding to like look for 11 and I'm considering like so like with that plan like I'm considering Mike telling them that to like basically they would according to like and I'm considering to be Mike's plan and with that like I'm considering both precisely Dustin as well as like Lucas straight away leaving saying goodbye and leaving Mike's home with the bicycle and ride. Then I'm preparing according to like Mike's plan. I'm preparing as the Mike as to like how Mike would be like getting up to them with like Lucas and Dustin will be precisely because like I'm preparing especially with like Mike's mother being so extremely strict about like the current situation and everything to not let anyone leave like the home in like the night like I'm preparing as to like how exactly I'm delivering Mike would be like breaking his mother. I'm delivering it would be most likely I'm delivering Mike would be straight away telling his mother that I'm going to bed early tonight, like along such lines, and I'm delivering Mike totally going up to his room and Mike totally like closing the door and making closing the door in such a way that like the sound of like the door closing would be like loud enough to be heard by Mike's parents, especially my brothers. And so basically, right then I'm delivering Mike to uh, totally quickly sneak into like Nancy, his sister's like room. And I was preparing before that I was preparing Nancy would be like most likely leaving finally would be getting permission from her mother to attend like the assembly in like the football field in like for talking school is definitely for like participants and all that. It's definitely my big brother. So like Nancy that way tracking her mother and basically Nancy shortly at that point I was bringing absolutely Nancy's friend showing up to like the car and I was bringing Nancy and her friend basically leaving with like the scenario that I was bringing. And right it will be after that soon after that I was bringing my shortly I'm bringing my totally going up to like Nancy's room and I'm delivering like Mike totally like leaving like escaping from like his home, getting out of his home. Yes. At that point, I was delivering Mike precisely getting out of his home precisely through that window path through which like Mike had like the previous night had seen like Steve enter into like Nancy's and the sister Nancy's room. So like I'm delivering to be precisely through that window path. I'm was detecting Mike precisely stealthily leaving. His home and I'm also bringing my stealthily and quickly taking his like bike and like quickly like riding his bike and meeting up with this his like friends and I'm also bringing get them like totally like on the search on that absolute search for like 11 in like the middle of the night is like the scenario that I'm also bringing. So like I'm also bringing right then like eventually them totally finding like 11 and in like the after like them riding like the bicycle after a certain point like I'm considering them totally seeing 11 it's like the scenario that I'm considering and I'm considering at that point Mike totally Mike and friend totally asking like 11 asking like why like 11 left Mike's home and everything and I'm considering it's like totally Mike's like potentially Lucas would be creating like a whole quarrel and would be it would be kind of irritated with like 11's behavior of the 11 with prevention for that that would be taking a lot of time and I'm considering eventually 11 like trying to reveal to like Mike and friends as to like that basically about like the alien and all that. But like even before 11 would be able to do that, like 11 will be quickly strongly sensing like the presence of like the alien, villain of alien, even closer than initially it was able to like sense it like presence. Definitely my person and that would be precisely because of like Mike as the Mike's sister like Nancy along with her friend like driving along, most likely having driven along that precise exact direction and since like Mike's sister will be has like high IQ, like will be definitely having a high IQ and those different like and according to my personal example, different like the villain is like the villainous alien is like precisely targeting his, individuals with like high IQ and it will be like a it's exactly like the scientists was it's like first target of disappearance and Bill as well has been revealed to have like high IQ being the second target Amber Simmering since like my sister as well would be totally having high IQ and so like Amber Simmering since the villainous alien would be able to like sense like an individual with like an exceptionally high IQ like along at the nearby location Amber Simmering like the alien precisely showing up quickly moving up to where like my Nancy would be like driving the car along with her friend and Amber Simmering the alien quickly showing up and I'm about to bring like Nancy and her friend like shocked by like seeing this like alien like kind of like a mysterious figure in like the middle of the road and I'm about to bring specifically because like it would be like the path would be like extreme kind of like not that bright and kind of like dark and about to bring like the friend of like Nancy and the friend would be in that very same car, like would be not be able to like both Nancy and her friend won't be able to like clearly see as to like what this like figure that's like scary figure that's like standing in front of them, even if so like I'm to bring that alien like quickly like using its like powers which would have like which would be associated with energy and both the bring and to like precisely take advantage of like the car battery and like I'm considering like the lights within like the car like and like its front light and all that like uh totally flickering at that point and I'm flickering at that point like right while precisely exactly while like Nancy as well as her friend would be like shocked and frozen with fear at that point. So I'm considering Nancy right exactly at that point disappearing while while Nancy will be sitting and shocked and frozen with fear right beside like Nancy's friend on seeing this like mysterious figure and like the center of the road like I'm considering Nancy will be straight away disappearing. Just like the scenario that I'm considering all. And my personal ambitions are like precisely at the very moment like Nancy would be like disappearing at that point itself, like the alien as well would be instantly disappearing as well. Just like I wasn't really. So like at that point like Nancy's friend would be in like the car would be like probably shocked and like would be absolutely pure plan would be totally absolutely confused as what after like what just happened and I'm looking for being so extremely scared and panicking and her like I'm looking to straight away getting to like the driver's seat and her basically just straight away driving quickly back to her home. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. And while what this will be happening, I'm also preparing like what this will be happening precisely at like the point when Mike and Lucas would be most likely picking a fight with like a quarrel kind of like a quarrel with like the would be totally getting angry and would be totally creating a drama with like 11 is like would be when this will be happening. So like at that point, 11 considering would be totally sharply sensing something like totally happening and going wrong, and considering 11 totally without saying a word like totally running to that precise direction is definitely my looking very impression. So like Mike and like Lucas, Dustin and Mike would be totally confused as to like why 11 is like totally running unexpectedly running into like a specific direction, but like I'm considering precisely by the time I'm considering like so like I'm considering at that point 11 to be like kind of extremely fast with her running and all that because of her spiritual powers, especially when doing dreams. So like at that point I'm considering Mike, Dustin as well as Lucas like using their bicycle like chasing after like 11 like the towards that the directions like the scenario that I'm considering. But like I'm considering when all of them when Mike and his friends would be make chasing after like 11 I'm considering all of a sudden like 11 thought is stopping at a specific spot, and that would be the first spot where like precisely like from within the car, like Nancy might have been like gotten abducted by that first alien. Is definitely my personal impression. So at that point, I'm considering like 11 totally realizing that it was too late to make it there, and I'm considering 11 totally like there would be I'm considering maybe some tire marks or like some sort of a clue at that point that uh, would be present in that precise location. To which like 11 would be like staring at. It's definitely going to perimeter, which like Mike and Dustin as well as like Lucas would be like looking at finding that way. It's also definitely going to perimeter. So like I'm just wondering maybe like Mike and maybe at that point, even though Mike and his friends won't be able to like precisely figure out what exactly had happened in that precise location, and also think maybe at that point for 11, who still have that communication and conversational issues, like I was referring 11 totally pointing towards Mike and 11 basically saying the word you, precisely because like 11 trying to communicate and tell to Mike that basically his sister Nancy is in like trouble precisely because of like 11. Where they are pointing at like the photo, looking at like the photo of like Nancy and basically having said like shoot. But the thing like that way when trying to communicate to Mike and I'm preparing maybe like Mike most likely at that point like being able to connect being able to connect that dots and then preparing since like Mike would be well aware that like Nancy had just left in the just left and might have certainly left along this precise direction. I'm preparing Mike at that point like totally kind of like feeling worried for like Nancy and I'm also preparing like Mike totally getting afraid, worried for like Nancy and everything. At that point, like Mike and his like friends deciding to like head off to, and at that point, and also the like Mike totally and his friends totally deciding to like head off to like the precise home of Steve. Where like considering Mike would be like well fully aware that basically Nancy's life would be like, even though Nancy would be able to like have basically would be tracking her mother, like I was considering those lights being like half too obvious for Mike that she's going to head off to Steve's place. So like I was considering Mike along with his like friends like totally straight away heading off to like Steve's home where like the whole party would be taking place. And I'm considering like Mike totally uh, asking Steve for like his sister Nancy, and I'm considering Steve kind of like totally being rude towards like my chemist friends, and I'm considering like like the a whole swap is happening, and then I'm considering like my chemist friends like basically being maybe being convinced that basically like his sister Nancy is not there in like the party, and then totally uh, so like my technical research had like after like my kind of friends being convinced that like that Nancy is not like she plays at staying home like I'm considering like my kind of friends like totally then like most likely heading off to the precise football field at like Hawking School where like the assembly is taking place and searching around like the entire area, and I'm considering enough for everyone will be leaving like that assembly still like not might would be and his friends will be looking the entire area and won't be able to like find my hand at all. So like at that point, Mike totally feeling like that the absolute fear and worry as if to like the possibility of like Nancy most likely haven't been uh, and possibly something might have happened to like to Sister Nancy as well. Maybe like might even like in like the back of his mind getting that feeling that most likely maybe like the same situation as Will might have happened to his sister Nancy as well. So like I'm wondering while returning back home, like I'm wondering Mike and his like friends deciding to like basically uh, not take 11 back to Mike's home because like Mike might have feared the possibility that if his sister Nancy has actually disappeared, then like the sheriff and like the entire and his like entire team would be like the next day would be searching uh, Mike's home. So would be showing up to like investigate at Mike's home. So like would so certainly because of this reason, I'm both departing like Mike and his friends totally deciding to like get 11 to like and hide 11 in like Castle Barriers is definitely my personal dream. So like Castle Barriers being that place where like 11 would be like staying from that point on is definitely my personal dream. And that would be like that way like that being the whole like location where like they would be like my candidate friends would be like showing up every night and like discussing and simply like I'm considering like Mike would be still hopeful that like because like even after realizing his like the sister Nancy's disappearance as well, even though Mike would be extremely worried, like Mike would be still hopeful as long as like from my this point of view, Mike would be totally think that as long as he has 11 by his side, like definitely 11 would be that ultimate field that would be like through which like Mike would be eventually able to like save both Will and his sister. So like I'm considering that way to like uh, uh, gain more from information, get more information uh, from 11 somehow, like I'm preparing like my and to, like from like Dustin and Lucas like every night like meeting up at like Castle Bios and like them totally discussing and trying to do their absolute best to like discuss and talk to 11 but then that way trying to get all the information that like within like 11's mind. It's definitely like given the scenario that I'm preparing, I'm able to understand. Also, like the secondary impression that like even though initially my kind of strength wanted to like hand over like 11 to like the sheriff or like the grown like I'm preparing even more than it being like extremely so according to 11 being extremely dangerous for like Mike and everyone around him like even on top of that like I'm preparing like from Michael's point of view like after like according to my theory after like Nancy will be getting like disappearing and getting abducted that very night at around 8 o'clock. Like I'm wondering after that, like I'm wondering the precise reason for like Mike being like the first person to come up with like the decision to like to have 11 stay at like Castle at like Castle Bios will be precisely because of Mike at that point not wanting to like hand over 11 to like the sheriff like for the sheriff to not find 11 precisely because like Mike would be only sharing that like um, if the sheriff questions 11, like basically at that point, like basically the sheriff will be totally uh, they might totally take 11 to like an institution. So like basically, so that like at that point, like Mike and his friends won't be like able to for them to be able to like talk to like 11 and question to get information out of 11 connecting to Will's and answers like disappearance, like basically that will be not possible. So like precisely because of this reason will be when is when numbers differing eventually might come to the decision and taking the decision along with like eventually along and with like friends Justin and Lucas agreeing to that and then totally hiding 11 in like castle bios will be precisely happening in such a manner that Liverpool Premier. So like after that, I'm going to bring like after hiding 11 in like as by example, differing like Mike will be when like Mike and his friends will be returning back in the middle of the night. They would be like returning back to their respective homes, and at that point, I'm going to bring Mike to also have the task of like maintaining that uh, stealth as he get in a stealthy way to like get enter back into his home. So like I'm going to bring Mike stealthily like leaving his like hiding his like bike like leaving his bike like in like the front and in a stealthy manner, and I'm going to bring Mike to totally end up back into his home precisely through that exact path through like Nancy's like home's window. Definitely my preference. That way, Mike entering back into eventually through Nancy's room, Mike entering back into the room, and like an extremely worried Mike who would be like extremely worried for his sister Nancy. Like the next day, when his parents would be, which would be when his parents to find out, or most likely find out about like Nancy's disappearance, and while like they would all be totally panicked, like I'm preparing at that point for Mike being feeling forced to like basically put on a fake act as if he's like finding out about that just then. It's also definitely my preparation, and I'm preparing so especially because of my at that point definitely possibly having like 25% rate would be definitely having that high priority of like the sheriff not of basically wanting to like put up that fake act even in front of like the sheriff pop-up. So and like so that like as long as the sheriff doesn't find out anything about like 11, like Mike would be and his Mike would be only think that like he has a chance of basically getting all information out of like 11 and that way being able to like save Will. So like especially because of this reason, like Mike's like doing his absolute best to like put on a fake act the next day when like Hopper will be showing up to like Mike's home is like the scenario that I'm considering, but still I'm considering especially because of like Hopper having all that experience as like a teacher. I'm considering Hopper definitely sensing that Mike is like totally trying to hide something and it's like totally lying. But like I'm considering like since like Mike is only a child, like I'm considering Hopper deciding to not take to not question Mike further and I'm preparing Hopper still deciding to like basically keep his eye on Mike and like to and I'm preparing maybe like Hopper himself or like Hopper assigning one of his like uh, subordinates to like to a secret surveillance of like Mike is definitely my person to the ambition. So one of like Hopper's like subordinates secretly spying and following Mike around is like the scenario that I was covering, but like which I'm covering like Mike's friend most likely would be like finding out about this like precisely as like precisely as that subordinate would be like starting with this like whole the secret spying of Mike itself. I'm covering Mike's friends like totally seeing this and I'm considering them totally with that absolute self informing Mike about the situation with like Mike with like the like subordinate of like the chief like secretly training him and all that. So like I'm considering at that point it being like an even more harder task for like Mike and his friends to like do their stealthy investigation, yet like them somehow pulling through and like figuring out all sorts of strategies to like still like trick like even like that subordinate of like the chief that spying subordinate of like the chief and still them managing to be able to like meet up almost every single night at like castle fires is like clinical scenario that I'm delivering I'm not showing reimbursement. Okay, so like definitely not looking to reimbursement right now is that like even though the massive hole in like the middle of the forest would be like eventually totally leading to precisely and exactly Dr. Grenaz like energy laboratories definitely my position to reimbursement. So but still even then like compared to the ring like even though like the chief sheriff Hopper would be able to like make trace the whole investigation all the way to like like energy laboratory still under the ring to totally not be able to like definitely not him and his like host not being able to like search or investigate the tenth like run laboratory and the laboratory being tightly sealed when by the time like the by the time like Hopper as well as his team will be like getting there and able to find like possibly maybe even someone even showing up that they will be showing up there and able to bring that person like would be telling them if they have a warrant or like a warrant to like search that premises definitely the scenario that I'm preparing and um, then preparing like by the time the Hopper and his team would be getting their warrant and would be showing up to search like by then I'm preparing like Burnett and his team would be like would have like even gotten like a restraining order in that for that entire building is like the possible scenario that I'm bring that like I'm bring in such somehow bring Brian and his like team like uh, getting such an order and I'm bring that way like for Hopper and his like Sheriff Hopper and his like entire team and his entire was like not being able to like get into like the laboratory to energy laboratory of like Dr. Francis, like the scenario that I'm preparing. So, like, still I'm preparing eventually for like Hopper to like definitely even break all sorts of laws. Just definitely to Hopper would definitely be sort desperate to like find Will and save Will. That basically Hopper and preparing maybe in like the middle of the night somehow stealthily trying to like while breaking all laws like Hopper trying to sneak in uh, and sneak into that energy laboratory and I'm offering Hopper totally finding out all sorts of like scary looking like evidence within that laboratory and like I'm delivering that way like would be how like Hopper alone would be like that way figuring out like the like would be having like kind of like a solid evidence as to like basically this energy laboratory definitely having like something uh, the main role to definitely play connecting to like with disappearance, like Hopper totally finding that out eventually. But like I'm considering it would be like not happening in like the near future. I'm considering it would take a while before like Hopper would be even attempting uh, such and like would be infiltrating that way into like a Brennan's laboratory and gathering evidence that way. It's like the with the scenario that I'm considering. I'm not looking reimpression. And so my particular impression of for like this huge hole from like which would be definitely from like Dr. Friend's like energy laboratory that would be like a huge and long hole pipe like hole that would be like that's would be like what like basically the hole that's like present in like the middle of the forest and I'm considering to be precisely intended for like a stealthy burial. Definitely my particular impression and considering since like since my passenger average is like since like 11 the parents daughter name is like 11 numbers but his name 11 numbers different like it would be like the 11 person to for like Granite and his team to have performed their experiments on Stepnet within that energy laboratory on the Stepnet like the previous 10 experiments might have been like a failure and like all those and the experiment being a failure would be like resulting in like that individuals that is definitely of women. So like all of their bodies might have been precisely buried through this like by moving it through this like precise huge hole like tunnel and to be precisely stealthy not for that not to bury it with that absolute stealth and it might be buried in like the middle of the night through that precise tunnel like hole in that side forest would be where like I'm different all the bodies of like the failed experiment would have been buried like from like the past definitely my program. So like I'm preparing eventually maybe in like only like the distance that I'm preparing maybe for Hopper to be able to like figure this out and I'm preparing like Hopper I'm preparing along with the sports like basically digging up like the a huge area of that forest and them like discovering all those bodies is like the scenario that I'm looking for like in the future. Also like the secondary question right now as for like it seems precisely might that on his like definition of that what suffering is like basically it being precisely might that tells like 11 that basically suffering never breaks the promise like I'm considering that might possibly be like a foreshadowing into like a distant future scenario where like I'm considering this very same mic I'm considering is going to break a promise between Mike Dustin and Lucas, certainly my members in that a promise involving Mike only breaking that some sort of like a promise solely due to like 11 like I'm considering like Mike's action of like breaking that promise would definitely have like a connection to 11. It's definitely my personal memory. So like I was trying to very same mic in like the break a promise like that absolute promise that I was bring Mike substance and Lucas would be making at some point. It's definitely my personal memory. And that and they were fighting for that breakage of that promise by Mike causing like a temporary like quarrel and fight among close friends. It's definitely my first very much. And I'm considering for it to be temporary definitely, but like I'm considering it to like still last a while until like eventually like that temporary breakage of their actual bond of friendship like being restored again in the future eventually. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm just only putting in everything to the end. Okay, so like the play I'm very interesting right now as for like in the board game, like 11 right now, taking a cat, calling it win and turning that ball upside down and placing win in the center. But the brain might have to do with like most likely what the alien, like the villain of the alien might have done to Will, and that might have been affected that day when like the light bulbs was like basically right and what might have happened might be like the alien basically abducting from that shed like that alien might have probably affected Will and about the thing that alien might have Will and it's like net underground. It's definitely not underground and it might be like huge net that it might have built underground and that huge nest would be what 11 would be trying to communicate by turning the board game's board like upside down. That basically we need the subset level. It's definitely my personal reimbursement. So I'm considering that with the stadium might have built it like massive nest, honeycomb like massive nest underground. And they are like about to bring might have initially taken Will as well as like that scientist as well to that location and they are I'm considering that nest is to be like massive, extremely massive, and I'm considering that alien might have somehow built such a massive net underground within a short time. And I'm considering after like that alien abducting Will and take Will to that underground nest, like I'm considering Will might have somehow managed to like escape from that alien. It's definitely my considering, and that might be precisely what 11 will be trying to communicate to Mike and his friends by saying that after turning the board upside down and placing Will the castle 11 called Will on that board and basically saying that like that Casper Will is like hiding from the alien. So like Will would be might be right now hiding, might have managed to like get away from like the alien, but like still Will would be like totally trapped underground without knowing where exactly. It will be extremely, it will be fully dark and underground. Like there will be absolutely no light. So like Will, even though Will might have managed to like escape from like the alien, Will might be totally and fully trapped within that underground honeycomb like maze and that might be what would be like the like kind of represented to the backside of that board game being fully dark. It's definitely my preference and it could be reflected that extreme darkness, pitch black darkness that would be like existing within that underground honeycomb like maze. Is definitely my preference. Again, like I'm considering when might still be able to like even breathe underground somehow because like there would be like multiple openings. Underground leading to that honeycomb like maze on the top but like still yeah, in order to like find the opening to like the surface it would be extremely hard because like that honeycomb like that honeycomb like maze underground would be so extremely huge. Definitely my personal remember. So like it would be especially traps there yet with like all this opening like it might also have like enough just barely enough oxygen to breathe as well. It's definitely my personal remember. Yeah, like my perspective, impression right now is that basically what might have happened, like as to like how precisely that call to like which mother home in which like the phone had got electric load that like basically that call might have been precisely a call by precisely Will. It's definitely from that pitch black underground precisely in the moment it might have been able to like escape from like the alien underground like Will might have and considering like right before like the alien might have abducted Will and brought it to the underground like from that shed before Will disappeared like right before that that Will might have had like a wireless exactly like the kind of like wireless sets that basically that might have in his like home in his room like I was bring like a similar kind of like a wireless set like Will to might have had so like and that might have been present in that shed so like or it might have been present in like Will's home so like definitely Will might have come to that especially because of Will having like such an extremely high IQ and considering like Will on spotting like the alien and running away from the alien like to guarantee Will's safety and to like ensure that like no matter what happens to like it will manage it will manage to stay alive then in order for Will to be able to like escape like Will might have perfectly even with that high IQ might have even before disappearing Will might have perfectly ensured to like to actually take that wireless either from his own or like from his shed and like Will might have took that wireless and put it hidden in his like pocket of Stephanie might have been so like even like so that might have been what might happen Stephanie might have been so like then like that alien might have abducted Will from like the Will's like shed and then was departing from there once like Will was taken to like the underground maze honeycomb like maze and was in captivity by like the alien like Will at some point somehow managed to like escape from like the alien but since it was pitch black darkness like I'm wondering what might have happened would be like Will might have like the only number that Will might have precisely being able to like remember like I'm bring the only number that Will might be able to like even though Will has like a high IQ like the only number that Will might have in his like memory that that Will might have memorized might have been the number to his home so like I'm bring Will might have precisely even in the pitch black darkness like Will might have felt with like thumb and fingers onto like the numbers and onto the buttons of like the wireless and Will might have precisely in that pitch black darkness like Will might have precisely dialed toward like precisely Will's home. That might have been what might have happened. And right then and I was praying the reason for like Will's mother only hearing like Will breath and not Will was not even being able to like speak to his mother who being precisely because of like the extreme lack of oxygen in that dark pitch black dark honeycomb like me definitely my there will be lack that extreme lack of oxygen that basically there will be only enough oxygen for bills to like be able to like stay alive and I'm considering that too would be like something that will might not be with like that depleted levels of oxygen like will might not be able to like survive for so very great many years is definitely my ignorance there. I'm considering there would actually be a time limit until will might eventually die due to like that extreme lack of oxygen within that underground honeycomb like maze locations definitely might environment. So like Will might be only able to like survive to a couple of 3 or 4 years if will stay in that honeycomb like maze definitely might environment. So like I'm assuming might be due to that extreme lack of oxygen within that honeycomb like dark maze that would be the reason for like it only being like Will's breath alone that Will's mother had heard in that phone call and then not only being unable to speak might be precisely due to this like extreme lack of oxygen there is certainly my experiment. So like precisely as the Will style home and Will might have tried as well just to speak but like due to the lack of oxygen Will might not be able to so right then like I'm considering like the alien might have only caught up to like Will so like at that point itself, like Will might have got scared and Will might have dropped the phone and Will might have once again kept running through that maze within underground. So like at that point, I'm considering the alien might have uh, got hold of like the phone of Will and like the alien might have used its powers and electrocuted and destroyed that wireless like phone of Will. It's definitely one of the reasons. That might be how like the after like hearing Will's truck like Will after Will's mother hearing Will's truck like basically the phone of Will's mother got like electrocuted would be like because of that it's definitely my agreement. So like I'm considering that wireless that phone that wireless phone that like Will had basically might have been destroyed, thoroughly destroyed by the aliens. So like I'm bring in like this to like not be able to like contact through any wireless, and that would definitely be like the only wireless that Bill might have had with him. Definitely my personal agreement. So like according to my personal theory, that wireless will be then destroyed by that alien. So like right now I'm preparing no more contact, like phone call, like contact from when to like ever happen. Like the scenario that I'm bringing, though with mother has got a new phone and connected that new phone and all that. Like I'm bringing no with mother not getting any more calls from Bill at all. It's definitely my very intention. Okay, so like the minimum fully impression right now as for like the stream of a woman that like this brother Jonathan is like here right now hearing from like the precise location where like the alien had chased. Well, but the brain that stream would be like most likely the precise stream of either like Barbara or like Nancy. It's definitely my personal impression. So like I'm considering either like it was the scream of Nancy as like Nancy that being abducted by like the alien, or like I'm considering it will be the scream of Barbara because like I'm considering the alien might have quickly abducted Nancy while covering Nancy's mouth. So like I'm considering Nancy might have not been able to get screams. And I'm going to bring it might have been also like been like the same thing, just like Bill's case as well. It's definitely my personal remark. So like if that's the scenario, then I'm going to bring like it would be like Barbara screams that like only Barbara might have witnessed like the alien affecting Nancy. So like I'm going to bring it. It could be either Nancy screams or like it would be Barbara screams that like Bill's brother Jonathan right now is steering from that post. It's definitely my personal impression. And as for like how the alien might have abducted Nancy. I'm just talking that precisely as like Nancy and Barbara had like entered Steve's home for like the party. I'm just bring there. Steve might have totally irritated like might have irritated Nancy and like that might have totally caused Nancy to like form that up which is like towards Steve, and what might have happened would be like Nancy might have left Steve's home that party and Steve's home and like along with that Barbara and on their way back while the like Barbara riding like on their way back what might have happened would be like it might be probably on their way back like I'm also bring in the dark streets like I'm also bring the alien might have probably sensed like the first woman with like a high IQ Nancy probably from a distance or this alien might have probably targeted Nancy and like safely might have showed up in like the middle of the road and might have previously abducted Nancy. And like at that point, I was thing like and that alien might have really abducted Nancy and might be quickly moving through that forum, through that area near to that forum, where like the alien had initially chased after Bill. And I'm also wondering that alien might be right now quickly trying to take Nancy to that precise hole, which will be like lead to that hole and that hole would be like somewhere within that huge forest. Definitely mentioned the in the forest in which like Bill was saved by the alien ambassador. That whole area, that whole location would be like a huge location filled. That would be like a huge forest. Definitely mentioned. So like in that huge forest, there to be more than a single opening leading to like the entire species underground honeycomb like this black dark maze of like a nest of that aliens definitely my wondering. And that will be precisely where like Bill will be currently trapped in, and that will be precisely where like right now the alien will be like abducting and taking like Nancy as well towards it's definitely my consideration. So uh this is definitely my consideration. This will be exactly what will be right now happening. It's definitely my consideration. So like right now as like Johnson is like heading towards like the location of the three members dealing with the possibility of like Jonathan witnessing like as Jonathan will be moved towards that direction, I'm considering Jonathan seeing like the road and like on the road, like I'm considering there will be a car and that car, like I'm considering it will be Barbara all by herself, like screaming. It would be most likely what Jonathan would be seeing there, definitely my consideration. Jonathan asking Barbara like what happened, what's wrong and what happened, and at that point, like Barbara shouting out to like Jonathan in panic that basically something basically took away like Nancy, abducted Nancy, like this like the scenario that I'm just developing and I'm going to remember. Yes, so like actually we're looking the interaction right now as for like Jonathan taking like stealthily taking multiple photos of like the full party in like his home like I'm wondering it might be like the reason might be precisely due to that Jonathan genuinely feeling concerned for all of the parties that we have in the maybe due to that his home itself being like so close to that precise location where like where where Jonathan believes his brother had disappeared and all that. So like I'm going to bring Jonathan like with them like partying in like the middle of the night when the like all the threat of like disappearance and everything like I'm going to bring it might be due to like that genuine concern from Jonathan. Like Jonathan might be like foreseeing like that unfortunate such an unfortunate possibility where like any one of them could like totally go missing next after that Will's disappearance. So like maybe it might be precisely due to that like I'm suffering Jonathan might have started to like steadily take all the photos so that like that would be evidence as to that even if such an unfortunate even if it happens to any one of them, like that are passing like basically, and then at least Johnson would be having that concrete evidence as to like through those photos that lead not to the which at that point would like totally help like the investigation, like the sheriff and like investigation at that point to like basically find any one of them, like any one of them, so will be like passing those or leaving those missing, especially when with Miriam. So maybe like Jonathan might have thought so far ahead, and hence why he might be taking all those photos, especially my 2003 impression. And I'm speaking into my 2003 impression that like typically after the exact party that like Nancy is having at like Steve's home, or Nancy and Barbara like way back, like I'm going to bring them like only live together. And I'm going to bring on their way back currently, and they keep bring like the alien to precisely to open the middle of the road and affect precisely Nancy. It's like the scenario that I'm considering. And at that point, I'm considering all these photos of like Jonathan would be totally coming in handy for like the sheriff's investigation in trying to like find at that point find not only Will but also Nancy as well. So definitely I was very angry. Okay, so that definitely was fully concerned right now about once again like Will's mother getting that phone call, and like next time it even takes months to definitely it was like that phone call precisely being from Will, but like I'm considering that electricity will be precisely that alien attacking and trying to like stop Will from communicating with like Will's mother. Secondly, was the remit, and on top of that, basically like the music playing in like precisely Will's brother's room. That as well might be precisely Will's attempt is definitely to communicate with Will's mother. And there as well, the precise alien might have chased after Will and might have precisely been trying to like attack Will's mother by trying to like that basically that precise like alien like figure like trying to like emerge out of like the wall of like Will's brother room, Jonathan's room, to be precisely, first of all, my person mentions that like this monster, like alien monster, like its power to be precisely like the power to be able to travel through, turn into like electricity and travel through like electricity and circuits is definitely my person. That might be like the power of the alien, definitely my person. So like this might be how exactly this alien might have abducted initially that scientist and secondary like secondary event like that alien affected will as well like perfectly the like light bulb flickering would be precisely whenever that alien travels and is like nearby like it should be precisely then that alien that light bulb will be flickering is definitely my possibility. So like precisely connecting this with like the precise fact that uh where it has already been revealed that 11 is like totally afraid of like lightning and thunder will be precisely because of this exact reason. Like so definitely, in my book, I mentioned that like 11 might have definitely secretly seen, uh, secretly seen like Will's abduction by the precise villain of alien who has like the power of electricity and manipulate electricity and travel through as electricity. It's definitely my book, and hence why like 11 is totally afraid of like lightning and thunder because like, each time it would 11 would be hearing lightning and thunder, it will be reminded of electricity and will be reminded of this precise villain alien. So it's definitely scary villains aliens. Definitely my personal emotion. Also definitely my personal emotion as for like subtly in the very beginning when Will had played the whole board games with like Mike and his friends, and precisely as like Will was about to leave Mike's home, Will precisely like when Will was telling. might is like by is like goodbye like at that point itself precisely might just like form front light itself like flickering would be precisely due to that precise alien traveling, having most likely having sense like the high IQ of going from like after escaping from like the energy laboratory, the precise villain alien might have traveled through like the electric circuits and moved through like the town of Hawkins, and it might have the first person that it might have sent after precisely abducting like the scientist in like the energy laboratory, like the next person who's like highest IQ that like that precise villains alien might have been effective that of will definitely not the impression. So potentially because of this reason like I'm putting the alien that possessed villain of the alien who might be able to like travel through electric circuit in like the form of like electricity or electrical energy, like it might have only travel through the electric circuit all the way to like microscope, and there like it might have precisely through the electric circuit, like it might have precisely seen and precisely seen will is definitely my personal and will even microscope is definitely my personal impression. So like I'm preferring the through like the street lamp, like preferring precisely as like that day Justin and Will were like having their whole bicycle race, like at that point the I'm preferring like this alien might have precisely traveled through like the lamp post on the corners of the road to that way chase after it might have been what might have happened. So like that Will had basically got the lead in that bicycle race, and like since like with when Will was like all by himself, like at that point I was referring that alien might have came jumped out of like appeared out of like the light bulb and like appeared in front of Will, might have been what might have happened is definitely my preference. And I was preferring like that would be only possible for like this villain of alien precisely and exactly during 8 o'clock. Definitely my preference. So like I'm looking it would be 8 o'clock at 8 o'clock around like the electrical powers of like this alien would be maximum. And only at that point I'm preferring this alien would be able to like uh escape out of like jump out of its like electrical circuit. So definitely my if you like it's like alien forms definitely my vision parameter. But now it's like not 8 o'clock like this alien will be forced to like be trapped in like the electrical circuit in like the form of electricity is definitely my vision parameter. And this might be the precise reason for right now as like to and spring one after like affecting will after this villain alien might abducted will like at that point after spring will as well might have been trapped into like the form of electricity exactly like with aliens that live as of so like will even while in like the being in like the form of electricity might have still managed to like through the circuit all across like town or like will might not only escape from like the alien and will even while being in like the electrical energy form like I was saying will might have potentially traveled and made it short away into reaching like will home phone, and that might have been perspective and like through like the home phone will might have will even while being in electric form like I'm referring with certainly, and I'm referring maybe that even that phone call like that initial phone call as well I'm referring maybe might have that initial phone call to like with mother like still might have said they made that phone call precisely around like 8 o'clock. It's definitely my birthday month. So like I'm preparing after being abducted and trapped in that electrical form within that electrical circuit like I'm preparing will as well might share the kind of like the same property and like situation of that of like the villain where like I'm preparing it will be precisely at around like 8 o'clock that even will as well would be having like enough intricate energy to be able to like move around at its like fastest speed and like with having like the maximum intricate power and everything. It's definitely my best friend. Exactly around 8 o'clock. It's definitely my best friend. When I come to bring the initial call to like Will's mother might have actually happened at around 8 o'clock. So like I'm considering Will might have actually through the circuit might have traveled and made all the way to like Will's phone and basically through it might be through that way that Will might have through like the electricity, like Will might have precisely entered into the phone and basically Will might have while being in it, the electric form might have spoke and since it like phone converts like I think like converts to like electricity to basically into like basically phone conversation like basically like since that whole conversion is like happening within a phone a person that might be how will, while being in his electrical form, when Will entered like the phone, Will might have been able to communicate with like Will's mother, but like I'm considering right then itself, like the alien also like in his like electric form, while trapped within like the electrical circuit, like that alien might have saved after Will and sent it's like within it like attempt to like stop Will from communicating with Will's mother, and that might be like the electric shock that might have destroyed like the phone initially. It's definitely might have been the rebel. So like right now, the second time Will might have with like with mother replacing the damaged phone with the new phone, like Bill might have hoped for such a scenario, and so like Bill might have once again attempted to basically reach that surprise phone of like Bill's home, try to communicate with Bill's mother, and once again like they might have saved after Bill to stop Bill from being able to like try to like escape. So like that might be how like once again like the phone got that electric shock while Will's mother was speaking to Will is definitely a good emotion. And then straight away this time Will might have been putting more of an attempt to like basically communicate with like Will's mother, and that might have been probably like the music that Will loves so much, like even from way back, like that like music that Will loved so much, and it doesn't look like Jonathan, like especially being played in like Jonathan's room. That as well would be like Will trying to communicate with like Will's mother that he's alive, and that like and him that trying to seek help from Will's mother might have been exactly that's definitely my Will represent. So like even right then like the alien might have through the electrical circuit might have chased after Will, and might have that might have been how like the flickering resulting in like that table lamps that I think getting destroyed, and the lights cutting off, and I'm whispering right then like as for like the alien even trying to like appear out of like the out of like the wall of that room of John, then that might have been precisely like the alien trapped within like that electrical circuit, and that alien in his like electrical energy form using it like as trying to like jump out of it like electrical energy form into its like physical form, but like I'm whispering it's totally not being possible for like that aliens only due to like it's not being it's being like past 8 o'clock. Like I'm precisely during exactly like around like exactly 8 o'clock that the alien will be able to like take to be able to come out of which like electrical energy form into like taking its like actual physical form. It's what near my personal reimbursement. But right now since like it might be like past 8 o'clock, like I'm preparing that might be the precise reason for like the alien might have tried to like basically come out of the wall and take its like physical form and basically try to that alien might have been at that point trying to like take Will's mother's life, but like even that not being possible for like the aliens only due to like the time difference. Definitely my personal emergency. So like this might have been what might have happened. This definitely my personal emergency. And this might have been precisely what like 11 might have been trying to like communicate by turning like the board game like upside down with like that might have been like the 11 trying to communicate that basically will basically not in like the same place like the same plane of existence as like Mike and the others, like but like that's like Windows basically currently in like a different place, like that might have been what 11 might have been trying to communicate by turning like the board upside down, and that black area of like the bottom of like that board might have been like electrical energy circuit that precisely that precisely 11 might have that precisely exactly being where Will is, and like that exactly on top of where Will currently is, like that place where Will is, like Will even trying to like escape from that precise alien within that electrical circuit might have been exactly what 11 might have been even trying to communicate with like Mike and his friends, especially also Mike was very impression. Okay, so like looking at the impression right now was like vision right now was like an extremely scared Bill's mother, like basically deciding not to escape and returning back to that home like to save William. Also right now definitely Will's mother going up to that precise once again going back to that precise role of that Jonathan is that where like the music is right now once again playing, and I'm bring there like I'm also bring this time when the mother won't be entering re-entering that room like I'm also bring this time it won't be like the alien like silhouette or like figure that would be like trying to like reach out from like the wall, but I'm also bring this time it would be like what like its mother would be seeing would be like twins like body shape like trying to like appear out of like the ball. It's definitely my personal emotions. Which that would be like an extremely intense moment for Will's mother, where like she would be trying to like reach like Will, but like she won't be able to like save Will. So like Will trying to reach out from like the boards and trying to get the help of like Will's mother, but like still Will not being able to make it out of that into the circuit. Just like the scenario that I'm bring, and will that way get falling back into that electric circuit, like the scenario that I'm bring, and I'm delivering that alien as well, not being able to uh, come out of like the electrical circuit in which it will be wrapped in. Exactly, and I'm referring to this only due to like it being far past 8 o'clock, and that being like the sole reason for like the alien unable to come out of its electrical circuit. It's definitely my personal impression. So yeah. Okay, so like the personal impression right now as for like the precise alien that attacked Barbara, like I'm whispering that alien might have taken Barbara's life, and I'm whispering that alien might be like a totally different alien. That alien might have been like an alien that might have hatched from like the egg of like the mother alien, and it might have been definitely like the mother alien that might have caused like the disappearance of like the scientists from like the energy laboratory, and with definitely my personal image. So like I'm whispering the mother alien intent would be like totally different. Like it would its intent would be to like just abduct like the people at currently target and abduct people with like high IQ, and its intent to right now would be only to uh, gain all the knowledge of people with like high IQ, among humans with like high IQ, to gain all the knowledge from them for it to like learn a lot about like the humans, and basically so that like it should be eventually it would be or doing all that would be like its attempt to like eventually take over like the entirety of like the world, and like eliminate and exterminate the entirety of humans, the humans of the ranger. So like I'm whispering like currently like the mother agent intent would be like it would be especially targeting people with high IQ, and its intent would be to like gain all the knowledge from like the after like updating all the humans with like high IQ supplement interaction. But like after doing eventually like after like escaping from like the energy laboratory, and that mother alien might have laid like not only at like the within like the laboratory, but like it might have also laid it like even after escaping from like the laboratory, it might have laid it in like the forest and deep within the forest and other areas, definitely when the so those a bunch of aliens might have hatched from those eggs, and the brain so aliens might have also entered into like the kinetic circuit of the universal Americans. It would be like one of like those aliens that has from like the egg of the mother alien that might have certainly attacked Barbara. And definitely my impression that like Barbara might have definitely died. It's definitely my intention. Because like the aliens that has from like the eggs, so, like those aliens might actually want to like take it's like those aliens intent would be only to like take human lives if that's limit was intended. So like that might be the precise reason for the blood from Barbara's finger might have totally attracted attention, and basically might have it might have decided to take Barbara's life straight away. That way or like it could be at that point that but delivering like this um, alien that had from like the egg might from this point on start its own goal to like basically take human life, definitely might be 300%. So it might be like totally that goal of it would be like totally goal or like that intent of it might be starting and beginning with like Barbara. So definitely my totally impression. Only due to it detecting the sense of that Barbara's injured arm. Definitely my personal impression. So like that might be like ambassading a new ripple most likely maybe being formed with like this different alien, descendant alien of like the mother alien, which will be like starting its own set of like a rampage with like it's going after one after another human basically with like sort of like different intention like basically take each and all of the like definitely my concept. And as for like the descendant alien I'm also thing this descendant alien won't be like targeting based on IQ or anything. Like it will be only its only intent will be to take human life. Is certainly my very interest.